Good morning, everybody. So, we have all these messages that we're surrounded by, things like that we've heard since growing up: nice guys finish last. Or in business, we often hear that idea of doing well by doing good. And maybe that's become a little bit of a cliche, but I want to really lean into it and surrender into it and own it a little bit here. When I do breakthrough sessions with people who sign up, I ask people to dream what life could be like. Like, what goals would they set? If they could do a simple spiritual practice every single day that would help liberate them from their fear, from shame, from guilt, from what we sometimes call our false or our small self or our ego self, not our eagle self. It's actually really a hard question for people to ask. I get a lot of people kind of being like, hadn't thought about that before. Why is that? Why do we not think about what we could really do if we unleashed our goodness in the world and to be successful at it? One way to get at this comes from a poem by Marianne Williamson. Some of you might be familiar with it. She says, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." And I think that's true and somewhat maybe surprising for a lot of people, that at first we might think, well, of course I want to do good in the world and I want to be successful. But the fear comes up, well, what if I fail? What if people judge me? What if people think I'm naive and stupid? What if they think I'm weak if I put it out there that I want to do something that is good for me and good for others and for my community? So it really is, I think, when it comes down to it, it's not so much our darkness as our light that frightens us. In fact, our own darkness can be a hiding place. For those of us who have struggled with addiction, we know how kind of hiding in our own darkness can actually be a way to protect us from what we fear out in the world. But we know that true freedom and true happiness and true connection with God and with others is only possible by stepping out of that. But to do that, we've got to face those fears. So once we see clearly where we're kind of stuck in old patterns that keep us trapped in stress and overwhelm and fear, and that's the first part of these breakthrough sessions that I do, we get clear on that. Then we start to look at what's possible. Now, if we allow ourselves, if we have the courage, because it does take courage, to be guided by grace, then the floodgates start to open up to all these new ideas, to your true sense of purpose in this world, to being open to receive what God wants to do through you and your unique skill sets and experiences, the positive and the negative. Even your worst sufferings and traumas can become this vehicle for grace of unleashing goodness into the world. And we open to that in this practice of centering for wisdom that allows the power of the Spirit to guide you through this process. So it's when I ask those questions in the breakthrough session, again, sometimes it takes people a while, a little bit of encouragement to say, well, let's just imagine if you could step outside of those limited beliefs or fears or shame or whatever it is, what would you want to do? And that's sometimes like the most fun part of what I do in this process, is because that's when I hear these stories about my client Michael, who's the founder and COO of a large media company, who I'm continuing to work with him and support him in his practice of centering for wisdom while he creates a plan. It's bold, it's big, it's scary. It's a plan to make community-based journalism financially sustainable, to support voices in the local community for the arts and for social justice and for politics, all of that at a local level in cities across the country. And he's daring to try to make this happen and scale it to really help save community journalism. It's also when I hear about another founder and COO of a construction firm who has this dream about creating a financially viable, scalable model of affordable mixed housing to help address racial and economic inequalities in our country. These are big, bold dreams that are scary, and they can't come from that small self. They can only come from when we open ourselves up to being guided by a vision and a power that's bigger than ourselves. So the funny thing about this whole human experience that we're all living is that it's actually harder to take a risk and do something big and meaningful that does good for yourself, for others and the people that you love and care about and for the common good of your community than it is to stay trapped and small. The great thing about centering for wisdom is that you learn to recognize you don't have to convince yourself that you have this inner core of goodness. Instead, with the practice, you learn to recognize that you are already good. That is just the basic fact of your being, the fact of your existence, of being created by a loving higher power. It's the process and practices of centering for wisdom have all been carefully crafted over years of my experience and teaching and working with others, and honed down to the essentials to help you recognize and accept that inherent goodness, to step into it. And as you do that, to let go of all of the stress and the fear, the shame, the guilt, the anxiety, all the junk, the emotional baggage. Thomas Keating calls it the emotional wounds of a lifetime that is covering up your heart. It's like taking the tarnish off of it and seeing the shining jewel underneath, or the silver, the gold. All of that's covering up your inherent goodness. And when you start to do the practices that allow that tarnish to kind of be wiped away, then you own that inherent goodness and you can live aligned with divine wisdom and unleash your goodness into the world. So, I mean, it sounds amazing. Like if you're watching this video and you're like, yeah, I totally want that. But the challenge is that accepting this call is going to require all the courage you can muster and more, because ultimately it's going to require you to receive the courage that God wants to give you by grace. Because there is no going around your limiting beliefs, the ones that you've inherited from your family and your culture, maybe from your religious or spiritual tradition. You can't just wake up one day and will yourself to drop it, but you can go through it. And the process of centering for wisdom shows us a gentle, non-violent way to do it so that you can face the shadows and the tarnish that is covering up your light. The good news is that your only job in this process is to show up and do your daily contemplative practice of centering for wisdom. It's the practice and it's the surrendering and the letting go that creates the space for God or for grace or a higher power to do the inner work of healing and helping you to let go, so that you can find healing and deeper integration, that you can actually learn to integrate your shadow and your fears with your inherent goodness. And when you do that, the goodness and the light and the love wins, because that's just the law of the universe. This then allows you to have a fully integrated sense of self and being and trust in divine guidance and goodness that you are showing up in the world with. And this is what allows your inner light and goodness to shine out. It, after a while, starts to become effortlessly. It becomes your new set point. So if you start here, your set point is like fear and contraction. With the practice over time, slowly, you get to this point where your new set point becomes heart up, open, shining that light, receiving goodness, and then channeling that into the world. Then all of the support and the coaching and the encouragement, the community that we build, and the learning in the Centering for Wisdom approach is there and crafted to help you stay on track when life keeps throwing challenges and curveballs at you. Because let me tell you, when you commit to the path, like, the challenges are going to come, and that's there to see if you're really willing to do the work. Now, nobody does this path alone, and that's why I'm so passionate about walking alongside of people like you who are willing to accept this challenge to do well by doing good, to not be afraid to let your light shine in the world and dream something big that could really change the world. So let me check in with you real quick. Does this move you? Do you feel that little sensation down in your gut that there's something there that wants to be expressed in the world? If you do, that is the Spirit moving you toward this process of healing and letting your inner goodness shine for your own good and success, for others, for the whatever business or organization that you happen to work with, and for everyone around you, for the common good of your community. So, and I have to be honest too, if you're feeling that, it doesn't go away. You can try to suppress it, but go read the lives of everybody in history who's tried to kind of run away. It's like Jonah getting swallowed by the whale. God is subtle, but very persistent. She will not let you go. And not in order to make you suffer, but out of love, to draw this forth out of love. So if you're ready to take action and see where the next step is for you, to kind of see what those tarnishes are, the shadows that need to be let go of, so that you can let those go and unleash your inner goodness through grace, then I'm inviting you. In fact, I would even say I'm daring you to book a breakthrough session with me right now. So you can click on the link that I am going to put into the chat box here. Oops. Pardon me for a second. So that link is thomasjbushlack.com/apply. Again, it's thomasjbushlack/apply. And it is in the chat box now. And go ahead and book that breakthrough session, as I just dared you. We'll spend about 45 minutes getting really clear on what your current challenges are, where that dream is taking you, and we'll come up with a concrete plan to help you get there. And if I can help you get there, we'll discuss that together. And if not, that's fine too. This is totally a no pressure call. So again, this reminder from Marianne Williamson: our deepest fear is not that you are inadequate. Your deepest fear is that you are powerful beyond measure. It is your light, not your darkness, that most frightens you. So if you're ready to face that shadow, remove the tarnish, start practicing surrendering in and accepting that healing, that grace, that integration that God wants to work with you to bring your goodness into the world, then click that link right now, thomasjbushlack.com/apply, and I will talk with you soon. Thanks everybody for listening. Click that link. Talk to you soon. Have a great day.